You're right, though. It's just frustrating that these schools, to me, they're great with the academics, but gosh, do you know what the kicker is? They don't see how we operate
Yeah.
socially. And there's not enough sources in schools to, in my view, own it. Sure, do we have speech therapy? Yes. Do we have OT therapy? Yes. But it's not enough. We
Yeah.
need peer to peer results.
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't. And we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hirsch Redpun. And if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes. My guest today on Truth Tastes Funny is Sam Mitchell. Sam has a really great podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. He is autistic and he is an executive director, and he will tell you even more. And we will just dive in and have a great time today because we've spoken before and had a great time, but we didn't record it. That was by design. But now we're recording this interview. So Sam Mitchell, welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast.
Hey, good to see you again, brother.
It's great to see you. Thanks for doing this. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, what I do is I run a podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I developed sponsors, a board of 8. I'm an event planner in Indianapolis, where I'm from. I also have done speaking engagements. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada twice, Stewart, Florida, Washington, D.C. I'll be keynote speaking in Daniels, West Virginia, which is exciting. But this podcast and the nonprofit of mine is to change the stigma of autism and other conditions that make a disabilities. People on the spectrum are not broken and do not need to be fixed. Those with conditions or really want to be pitied. There's nothing to be sorry about. That's our mission statement.
Yeah. And I love that. I love particularly the idea of people on the spectrum are not broken, because I know that this is how so many people feel. The fact of schools, what schools put kids through and trying to get them to conform. When did it start for you in terms of wanting to change things?
It is because I've had enough. I think at 15 years old and beyond that, I got excluded with autism. You can imagine.
Yeah.
I think you can relate, because didn't you tell me you had relations to someone with autism? Or was it just
Yeah,
my imagination?
my son has Asperger's. He's now 32, so he's kind of he works now in nonprofit for an organization called Creative Spirit that helps people on the spectrum find employment. And he writes all their content and supervises all their content. But I remember at 7 years old, him sitting down on the side of the road. We were walking together, and he just looked up at me and said, "I'm broken." And, it just devastated me. But at that point, we had no idea that we didn't know if he was on the spectrum, or we didn't know anything about the spectrum. We really knew nothing. And I think it was, as much as Asperger's could feel like a label, I think that we felt a little relieved that there was some kind of name for it. But that didn't change the challenges in school, right?
You're right, though. It's just frustrating that these schools, to me, they're great with the academics, but gosh, do you know what the kicker is? They don't see how we operate socially. And there's not enough sources in schools to, in my view, own it. Sure, do we have speech therapy? Yes. Do we have OT therapy? Yes. But it's not enough. We need peer-to-peer results. Counseling would be a great idea, like peer counseling.
Yeah. Peer counseling. Oh, by the way, and that's another issue, which is, it isn't the word I would never use the word antisocial for anyone on the spectrum that I've ever met. If anything, it's just a way of socializing that doesn't fit the expectation necessarily of of everybody else.
Right. And we get ridiculed for it. Seriously. That's what
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't get it in my eyes because we're still getting to the same thing. It's just we're taking a different direction.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about what your interests were as a kid. What did you really enjoy doing?
As a kid, I still enjoy this day professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's probably my savior through my childhood. And then what I enjoyed into my childhood was instead of playing with toys, I did like a lot of organization, believe it or not.
Yeah. Okay.
And my mind was running wild. And when I was in wrestling, I wrote these papers, like the wrestling matches. I would always envision like two of the wrestlers wrestling at this place. So maybe it's at the Bloomington Hospital
Mm-hmm.
or at the Magic Morning Bakery. Yeah, I really write the match down at what's going on in that match. I still add it to this day sometimes.
So organization was just in and of itself a skill and a passion for you, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And
And
then speaking probably at a young age too. I did a little bit of speaking, but I was a little nervous because apparently for some reason when I spoke, people made fun of me.
well, there's I was just talking to someone, a friend of mine named Karen Cohen, who has a movement called Let's Be Peace. And the idea is not just about being peaceful, but kind of finding inner peace, being at peace, one person at a time. And I wonder if some, kids have, I think, a lot of fear. So I had never met a bully that wasn't afraid, right? Anybody who bullies anybody else is actually afraid and they're trying to compensate for it. So laughing at somebody for how they talk, not accepting them into their group, those people are just afraid.
Right. And I agree with you now. But if you were asked me that at 8 years old, I would have told you no. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like that. Because I'm seeing all these people laughing with their friends. They're showing videos of their phone. They're showing them photos. They're riding in vehicles, carpooling. They're going to the pool together. They're bowling together.
Right.
Yet, yet I'm here in the basement just watching music videos or listening to music videos because I knew if I tried to go with them, I'd be the last guy on the team picked.
Right. So for you, it was, fear of rejection and loneliness and feeling lonely.
Right. Here's a great example. It just happened today. Today, I asked one of my friends if he could take me to CVS to get some medicine because I'm still
Yeah.
on like bronchitis issues.
Okay.
But I asked him to take me to CVS to just go get some medicine, and hopefully that's going to happen. It seems like it will. But I wouldn't have done that. That would have never happened 8 years ago.
Right. Right. I mean, it can be crippling. The emotions are the same as anyone would feel. Isolation, depression, anger, sadness, longing, and there isn't anybody in the world that hasn't experienced those emotions. So it's like we're so much the same human beings. We're so much the same. We just have different ways of expressing it, different timing, different things that set us off, different things that give us joy. Speaking of joy, you've had some amazing guests on your podcast. You've had Temple Grandin, right?
Yes, sir.
Which is huge. Mick Foley from the WWE. Tell me
Yep,
about
and many more wrestlers too. I've
yeah.
had Kane on, Buff Bagwell, Victoria, Jake the Snake Roberts is a new one I can add.
So what is it like to have some of your idols, both, and they can be idols in any area. What is it like to have them on your show?
It's crazy. It's phenomenal in my view. It's fun, but I have a time limit. Sometimes they'll give me 30 minutes, but I can take it.
Yeah.
It's preferably I prefer more time just because I feel rushed, but I take what I can get. I'm not a guy who complains. And I'm just
Right.
grateful for what they do. I mean, they don't have to say yes. I mean, Kane is the mayor of Knox County seat.
Uh,
He literally took 30 minutes of his day to appear on some country boy show.
yeah.
He could have easily said, nah, I'm going to go sign some papers.
Right. Well, and so what's your takeaway from the fact that so many people have been not just willing, but excited to come on your show?
So humbling. one, but two, it's just a good feeling that there's people out there who have these big platforms want to listen to you. And it's a feeling I'm still getting used to. I haven't been wanting to be heard for 15 years. I bet your son, for an amount of years, I don't know how much, didn't get heard. Well, then people started to hear him out through jobs, through college, through just growing up as a child and the teen years or whenever.
Well,
It's an odd feeling.
it is. And what I think is so amazing is, I have done stand-up comedy in the past. When I was doing stand-up comedy in LA, and he would come with me, and I guess at the time he was probably in his early 20s, mid 20s, yeah, early 20s. And he would come with me. And, one time I said to him, do you want to go up? Do you want to go do stand up? And he was like, nah, nah, no. And then he was writing some ideas. I saw him take out a pad and start writing some ideas. And I knew he wanted to go up. And he said, can I still go up? And I said, sure. And what was amazing about that was that other comedians spent so much time trying to organize their persona on stage because we get nervous, we get scared. Now, he went up in front of 150 people and killed as a comedian, just did great with no prior experience being on stage as a comedian, no prior experience writing, and just looking at his ideas and kind of going off the cuff. And I thought that was so amazing. But more amazing than anything was the fact that, sure, he was nervous, but the audience is they relate to the idea that someone is nervous. They relate to
Right.
the idea that someone is, but he was completely genuine. He was completely himself, not trying to be anything, and then went on and did 2 or 3 more shows and killed every time. And I didn't even do so well every time. No comedian does well every time. And I'm sure if he continued to do it, he would have some where he didn't, do 100%, but he was very natural at it, but still
Well,
very, very much
what's
himself.
from what I've heard, and part of the naturality is, unlike some, it takes a while, but for some, this is a switch with the
Yeah.
right thing. I mean, with meeting the microphone and doing a podcast and making ads, I think part of it is I like it, but there's a switch that goes off in the brain just like that. Whereas you guys take progression in most things and a lot of things, whereas us, it's boom, there's a switch. I
Yeah.
think the same way with AGT contestant. I think Cody Lee. I don't know if you ever heard of him or
Oh,
not,
yeah.
but
Sure. Yeah.
that's what people say, and people like who have the mindset of him.
Yeah.
When he plays music, there's a switch that goes off.
Yeah. I totally get that. I totally get that. And I think it's true.
It might be
Even
the same way with your son.
it's not only that, Sam, I would say it's the same way with me. It's a switch that I think I gravitate toward what I do with podcasting and hosting and speaking because it makes me feel more comfortable and is kind of I don't even want to say crutch, but it definitely is a support system for me being on stage, being behind the microphone. And you have to turn it on when you get up there. Like I would be at a work business event, and someone would say, "Oh, can you host this or jump up there and be on stage?" That's much easier for me than meeting people in a crowd, meeting people one-on-one in a social situation. Now, I'm not as uncomfortable, but everybody goes back to that theme. Everybody has fears, everybody has concerns. Hey, what was it? What was it? I have 2 things I want to talk to you about. One of them is, what was it like having Temple Grandin on? What was that experience
Um,
like?
she is a bottom up thinker, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, but she's very business like mindset. So very
Uh-huh.
similar to me. I'm a very business mindset person. I think we both don't get small talk. I don't get it. I don't see the point of it. If I like to talk to you, there's something to it. Now with friends, I get it. We like to shoot the crap, clearly.
Right.
But if it's a complete stranger, I'm talking to you for business purposes.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And that's something a lot of people can relate to, but cover it up with a lot of small talk, So what about,
I don't like
go ahead.
that. I'm like, I don't like that. Just cut to the point. What do you want to talk to me for?
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of which, the last thing I want to cover is motivational speaking. As a motivational speaker, what's your agenda like for that? What are you doing with that?
Well, I think what we do is when we motivational speak, we try to align with the conference itself. So one is going to be about technology. We did a couple years ago. So I align it with why those on spectrum can benefit from special education and technology. I have my own views on technology, but I think there is a pro technology when it comes to those on the spectrum. But like this one in Daniels, West Virginia, it's keynote. It's going to be a little bit longer, and I might be telling my story, but also trying to talk about the behaviors of what a caregiver can do if their child on the autism spectrum or caregiver starts to see their person with autism is getting angry and he starts throwing a desk, for example. But then this Friday, I'm speaking to elementary students at Paoli, Indiana. So it's going to be a little different and a little bit more fun and connecting more with younger audiences compared to this West Virginia one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, let's close this interview with a couple of messages that you want to give. One would be a message to other people on the spectrum, and another one would be to caregivers, parents, and just some inspiration for both groups.
Right. Well, for people like myself, I would say find the person out there, or if not, try your best to, because someone's going to find you interesting. And if it's not at kindergarten, it could be when you're 69 years old. But someone's going to find you interesting. Don't think your life is going to be alone all the time. Someone's going to say to you, oh, I think he's interesting. It might not be in the same state, but it'll be at some point.
And what about for parents and caregivers?
Now, caregiver is going to be hard because I never had a caregiver. But if it is a caregiver, maybe treat them like you are their parent. I mean, you know them well enough. But for parents in general, I would say the best idea you could do is be there for them, no matter what. I mean, I don't know much people like 9 o'clock at night because they're family and they're my mother and they actually care.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Unconditional love. I think a lot of us think we know what that is, but some people struggle with it and don't, and have a hard time giving it.
Right. And that's not me. I'm very easy going guy. I make sure you're all right. That's just who I am.
Well, Sam, thanks so much for being on the podcast. And where can people find you?
You can find me on autismrocksandrolls.com. That's my website, but I'm not a hard guy to find. If you Google me, your search engine optimization, something will pop up.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.